You know, I got into a brief argument in the comments with someone who said I just don't get this story, that it's deliberately designed as a deconstruction of Batman as a psychotic figure, damaged and deranged, and that it's just a good idea that's been poorly executed. Which, okay, but one, it's still poorly executed. Two, even if that is true, it wasn't what the book was supposed to be about. And three, no one wants to read that story. Well, to be accurate, no one wants to read that story here. Deconstructionist superhero tales are a dime a dozen, and they don't really need to have the actual superheroes for them. There's a reason why people use analogs in those stories instead of the real thing. It's an often quoted remark about superheroes that they are an adolescent power fantasy. A male one in particular, but let's leave that out for the moment. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the catharsis of seeing violent, terrible people get their comeuppance via gloved fist to the face. There is something to be said about the mythology of a person putting on a costume designed to evoke emotions in people and trying to right the wrongs of the world. There's something in believing in symbols and figures larger than ourselves and drawing inspiration from that in our everyday lives. And then there's something to be said about taking that power fantasy, one that's also beloved by children, is on toys and in cartoons, and then making him a crazy psychopath who forces a little kid, one who just lost his parents as he did, to eat cave rat. Just saying, there's a time and place. As was indicated by Jack Ryder's words at the beginning of the comic, there is a misconception that Superman is a big meathead who just delivers corny lines because that's the stereotype of superheroes. But superheroes have evolved. Their writing has gotten smarter. And consequently, Superman is not stupid. One of the greatest things about Superman is that he possesses all this power, all these abilities that any cynical person would say would corrupt and make him into a terrifying tyrant, but it didn't. He chose to use his powers for kindness, to be a good person, the kind of person who wouldn't murder everyone when he got angry, to always hold his power in check in a world full of cardboard to make sure that he never hurt innocent people. He got smarter because he needed to be smarter to ensure that he wouldn't take a life. It's not like he's never thought about doing these things. It's just he chose not to. He thought about it, he considered it, and he decided it was wrong. The elite have all that power and none of the wisdom. They're sloppy, they're arrogant, and they're cynical. A little imagination, and they could use the magnificently broad powers they have to accomplish the same things they claimed to be about without a single life lost. But no, they think the world is ugly and mean, and so they got ugly and mean in response. It's easy to look at the terrible things happening at any given point in history and see all the examples of greed, corruption, and evil, but it's also easy to overlook the compassion, the decency, to see people being nice and good and wonderful. That's my deconstruction of superheroes. People can be and are kind. So why wouldn't someone with incredible abilities be kind too? Look, I've made no secret of it. I have no patience for this kind of story or character. The thing about these sort of superhero deconstructions is that they have two repeated qualities ad nauseum. One, the failure to acknowledge that we already have a term for those who use extraordinary powers to commit horrible crimes: super villains. And two, they always push their stories into edgelord, grotesque extremes to try to make us be on the side of those who hate superheroes. It's not enough for a corrupted superhero to just be greedy or prejudiced or a bit cruel. No. Superheroes are either naive idiots that just stepped out of a Silver Age comic, or they're pedophiles who bathe in the blood of puppies that they had sex with earlier that day and are ready to graphically torture people for page after page before sleeping on a bed made of dead kittens and laughing maniacally at how they can get away with anything, because who would be stupid enough to actually think that someone is interested in helping people, am I right? And there are plenty of deconstructions out there that work. Watchmen, Squadron Supreme, The Mighty, Kingdom Come, just off the top of my head. But these kind of stories turn superheroes into the kind of people that even Cenobites would say, "Dude, could you tone it down a bit?" There's certainly a place and an audience for these kind of stories, but it's not me. I frickin' love superheroes, and I reject outright deconstructions and satire like Martial Law or The Boys, stuff made by people who hate them. It's not for me. The issue is promoted as being the one that would finally explain why Batman has never killed the Joker. And unsurprisingly, and kind of boringly given the hype, the answer is because it would betray his morality and turn him into the very thing he fights against. People understandably object to that, though to answer the hype, what the hell were people expecting the answer to be? That Joker is a special bomb that would go off if he was ever killed or something? Or that the Joker was secretly a family member? There is no satisfying answer beyond his morality. So let's talk about that for a second. Me personally, I do not want him to kill, and I question any story where he does so. Yes, even the Tim Burton Batman movies. Much as I love them, him being a killer in those bothers me. The rest of the package is good enough for me that it doesn't ruin the films, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't an issue. To me, superheroes, in particular DC stable, are supposed to be characters we aspire to be. Paragons and legends that try to make us better people. Batman is the height of what a normal human being can do if they're dedicated enough. One of the smartest, most physically adept people on the planet. Admittedly, he kinda needed excessive amounts of money in order to do those things, but even comparing Bruce Wayne to real-world billionaires is laughable. I mean, for one thing, Bruce seems to actually pay his employees a living wage and kicks out the greedy and corrupt. Point is, to me, Batman's morality, his unwillingness to kill after what happened to his family, is a core part of his identity and something to aspire to be. I find killing morally abhorrent, but I also know that if the situation called for it, I don't know if I'd be able to stick to my principles if it meant staying alive or protecting a loved one. But Batman is supposed to be better than that. The people of the DC universe need him and Superman and others to be better than that, since they assign so much moral authority and legal guardianship of the world to them. Our protectors need to be paragons if we're to trust them with the power we grant them. The instant you do allow him to kill, even just once, you can't trust that he'd never do it again. That in the right circumstances, Batman will take a life. Thus it taints the character, the unbreakable man whose moral code is so against killing, all you gotta do is push him hard enough and then he'll do it. It'd justify the Joker's position of one bad day being enough to drive a man mad. And let's face it, you can argue as much as you want about, but Batman's letting the Joker get away with more murder every single time he doesn't kill him. But really it's saying that the hundreds, if not thousands of other people who more regularly see the Joker on a daily basis in Arkham, or have to drag him back when the Joker is stopped in his latest evil scheme, are even more guilty than Batman is, because they could also do it but choose not to. Don't put the blame on one character who has a strong moral code when there are others who don't but still choose to let him live. Or, as you should be doing, blame the writers for constantly trying to one-up the horrific crimes of the Joker so that he's got more of a body count than some genocidal dictators. Remember, these characters aren't real. Writers decide what they do, including every single new supporting character who dies at the Joker's hands. And this issue lays it out hard. Barbara Gordon in The Killing Joke, Sarah Essen from The End of No Man's Land, Jason Todd in Death in the Family, and now Tommy Elliott, who earlier in this story saved Bruce's life. Batman narrates that Nightwing once told him that he and the Joker were forever linked in battle. Batman is the order in Gotham City, and the Joker the chaos that disrupts that order, that they exist because of each other. I will not accept any responsibility for the Joker. Except that I should have killed him long ago. Chills. Honest to God chills reading this originally. Where the hell was this Jeff Loeb for Ultimatum?